You know, I've had my fair share of complaints with this series the past year, but, you know, all things considered, I think they were founded upon, and I think I've handled them rather maturely, if I do say so myself. I am going to take a fucking plane to Japan, go to your house, and beat the living Okay, yeah, so Kubo has maybe made a couple of boners this past year, but that doesn't mean that the whole series is crap. In fact, even though I only do Bleach videos because they're the most easy for me to parody and maybe make satire of, I don't want you guys to think like I'm doing it because I hate Bleach, or I'm making fun of it because I get a sick joy out of it. Like, come on guys, we all know it sucks, so we can make fun of it. That's not the case, really. In fact, this arc right here, although I started with the Fullbring arc, and that one was, maybe I was doing a little bit of the parody thing for that, but this arc is actually really good. And this past year alone has just been an explosion of stuff that we've wanted to see in this series, wanted to know in this series for years. So you know what I figured? Right here, right now, we are doing the top 10 best Bleach moments of 2013. And it should be obvious that this is all in my opinion, of course, but something else I need to clarify is exactly what a moment is. You see, this isn't like a movie where you can just pick out a particular scene that you like and just put it on a top 10 list. This is a manga series, so this is basically how I'm going to do it. I can choose anything from either a particular scene from a chapter, even if it's just 1 or 2 panels, the whole chapter, a series of chapters if they have like an overlapping story arc, so it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, just one particular scene. It could be multiple of scenes, just to kind of clear that up. And without further ado, cue that awesome title card that I just came up with like an hour ago. Number 10. The Summoning of the Fondant A from Chapter 546. Alright, so ever since the Quincy's first invasion from the Seirete ended when Yuha Bach had to basically lead a retreat because the Shadow Dimension seemed to kind of pull him back in, the fandom speculated that Yuha wouldn't have been able to stay out of this Shadow Dimension for very long without having some kind of detriment to his health. We all thought, okay, that makes sense. Yuha is somehow bound to this other dimension, and that gives a huge weakness to this character we normally thought was invincible. He has to stay in this Shadow Dimension. Well, how did Yuha get around this? By summoning his fucking fortress, overlaying the fucking Seirete. And keep in mind here, I did not say summoning next to, summoning over, summoning below. Summoning overlay, as in the actual Seirete is everything in it. All of its medical facilities, all of its research facilities, all the armories, all the barracks of all the divisions are literally overlapped to form Vondenreich buildings. Hence why I came up with the portmanteau Vondenreich, Seirete, Fondant A, because I've actually gotten some messages over that, because I've been using the term for maybe about 10 chapters or so now, probably closer to 20, and people are leaving me comments like, Tekking, it's not Fondant A, it's Vondenreich, you know, learn German, you stupid American. Like, no, it's my own invention, I came up with it. But really, more than anything, this kind of really speaks to what Yuha is as opposed to Aizen in terms of a major antagonist. Now, Aizen, I'm not going to say Yuha is more intelligent than Aizen, because honestly, I think Aizen may be a little bit more intelligent. He kind of got the one-up on Yuha when he lured him down there into the, the prison there. He kind of warped his sense of mind. So I'm going to say Aizen might be a little bit more intelligent. But what Yuha does have that Aizen didn't have is better military strategy in this matter. So, Aizen basically, what he had was he was insanely arrogant, and he had a mother of all god complexes. In fact, that's probably the most apt definition the apt person to use the term god complex when the guy pretty much almost became one, so yeah. But at the end of the day, he was very he thought, you know, he had this entire army behind him, and he only invaded Karakura town with like 10 of them. He was so certain that those Espada and Fraction alone would be enough to trump all of the Seirete's prime fighting forces. And hey, even if they did fail, he could just take them all on single-handedly. And he kind of sort of did, but at the same time, he was bounded to the Gogyoku, and that was that arrogance that eventually run him down against Ichigo. Yuha Bach brings everything to the table. Even though it is very clear that he is insanely powerful, he has all these abilities, and he was able to strike down the fucking Captain Commander himself, he still does not pull any punches. His goal is complete annihilation of the Seirete. That means bringing every single soldier that he has at his disposal, all the foot soldiers that he has at his disposal, every trick that he can pull out, he will pull out and take these freaking Seirete motherfuckers down. And after they all think, okay, that's all the bags of tricks he has, he pulls out something else. That is Yuha Bach in a freaking nutshell. That is why I like this character as opposed to Aizen, and that is why the Fondant A is freaking awesome. Not only to the fact that you are attacking the place that is basically the Seirete is the home base for the Shinigami, a place that they always felt safe. And after the Quincy's attacked it the first time, that was our first real reaction as a fan base. Like, holy shit, the Seirete is not safe. They can just go in there and blow shit up whenever they want. But then, even when they think, okay, they can just come back and wreck us all over again, we gotta fortify, Yuha's one step ahead of him. He's like, oh, no, you're not fortifying. Click, floom. Fondant A for the win. Number 9. Toshiro and Soifon's fight against Bazby, Kangdu, and BG9 respectively. This one refers not only to a specific fight, this refers to the way they fought after their Bonk Eyes were stolen. This brought something also new to the table that I was really surprised. Up to this point, when we're talking about the captains, basically their prime method of fighting is just going Bonk Eye right away. They might do some Shikai abilities, but for the most part, when you're fighting a major opponent, it's pretty much just Bonk Eye, Bonk Eye, Bonk Eye, Bonk Eye. The Quincy showed up and they removed that whole premise from the Shinigami, so they realized, okay, Bonk Eye's not going to work, Shikai's not going to be strong enough, so we have to figure out some way to hone our battle abilities. We got to maximize our speed, our intelligence, our Kido, our Shikai ability to its freaking maximum, and then go beyond that if we're going to have any chance against these Quincy's. We need to come up with, like, we really need to think outside the box here, and that is exactly what Toshiro did. When he combined his power with Rangiku to make that vacuum barrier thing and then the vacuum ice blade, that was ingenious. I was so happy that Kubo went there, because it was really making sense in the grand scheme of things exactly how it played out, how it worked, and how it would be effective against Bazby. I mean, we all thought, okay, Toshiro has no Bonk Eye, he's made of ice, Bazby's the fucking fire guy, Toshiro is going to get curve stomped in like the first 5 seconds. But no, he actually held his own for a very long amount of time. Same thing with Soifon. Soifon went back to the Shunko, something that hasn't even been mentioned in her character since the Soul Society arc, but she went right back to it, she fine-tuned it, and she came out with something amazing, awesome-sounding name. I mean, yes, I know both of these techniques for both characters didn't really work out at the end. The Quincy still didn't get beaten down, but it was just so, it was like a breath of fresh air to see these characters working and being effective in battle without just jumping to their Bonk Eye or making the most of what their other abilities are capable of. Really, really welcoming to see. Number 8. And on the flip side of that coin, we have the return of the Bonk Eyes from Bleach chapter number 553. So, after some little bit of absence and kind of questioning exactly what's going on here, Uehara develops these pills that are able to fuse the power of the Hollows with the Shinigami. Just a minute amount, but just enough to poison the Quincy well and wipe out their ability to control over the Bonk Eye. This was also really kind of like a big thing for us to find and figure out exactly what the prime weakness of the Quincy's was, and we kind of got hints at this earlier during the Misaki flashback, but it was hollows. Hollows are the polar opposite of Quincy's. Anything hollow is going to be poison to these things. So what does Uehara do? Develops these little pills, sends them to everybody in the Seirete. He's just like, just touch them, they enter your soul, so not only do you get your Bonk Eye back, you get a little health boost, and your Bonk Eye also gets this awesome little holified tint or powdering over it. It's not exactly like a visor power-up, but it's just this little garnish over it that just gives it this awesome badass. Let me look at Hiyori Maru here. Oh my god, it's like a demonic ice dragon. I love that freaking dude. What would have been even cooler, though, is if the Hollow Pill turned Soifon's heat-seeking missile, Jakuho Raikoben, if it got like a badass, like, demon paint job, like the flames started erupting from it, like a new paint job for its Hollow Mask, maybe like a badass Hollow Mask on it, just like, suck it, BG9. That would have been cool. Number 7. Everything relating to Jugram Hashwolf. Despite me saying that Yuha Bach is probably my favorite antagonist over Aizen here, he's not the person that, and he does have a lot of mysteries around him, don't get me he doesn't, but a lot of the mysteries that is around Yuha has at least been alluded to. He's been alluded as this Kaiser from this fairy tale of Quincy lore forgotten that has this insane amount of power, has the ability, well, he's gained Yamamoto's Bonk Eye, and that in 9 days he will have enough power to rule the world. So there's a lot of mythos surrounding him. It's not much, but it's something. Hugh Graham Hashwolf, we know nothing about this dude. Up until recently in the story, he was regarded as the second in command of the entire Vonenreich and the Sturmritter. Sturmritter B. His powers are kind of vague up to a little bit ago in chapter 559 when we finally got at least a glimpse of what he could do. Up to that point, he was just kind of the stoic guy with the long flowing hair and the sword that he's like, I could kill you, but it's just going to be kind of annoying to do it. But I could. Just let me know that I could. Just let you know. But in the recent chapter 559, and the reason he got put on this list is his power and the potential it has. We don't know exactly know if he's called Stern Ritter B because of the balance, but if it was going to be anything, he kept referring to balance, so I'm just going to assume that's what his Stern Ritter title is. This power basically allows him to level the playing field in any situation. So Hugh Graham is strong enough on his own, but if someone were to get strong enough to defeat him, if someone were to get the upper hand over him, he could just tip the scales back in his favor, or at least even everything out. Once again, we haven't really seen him use this technique in a battle yet, so we don't really know exactly the full potential of what it can do, but we do know the other Stern Ritters are scared shitless by this guy and the potential that he carries. So, Hugh Graham Haswalt, I hope we get a lot more of you in 2014, because you, sir, are 100% Quincy badass. Number 6. The revelation of Ichigos New Zangetsu. Alright, I know a lot of you are already saying, like, what the hell are you talking about, Tekking? Ichigo's New Zangetsu is at number 6. That was like the high point of the entire year. Hell, the Bleach chapter reviews that you did about it are the highest ranking ones you have on your fucking YouTube channel, so why is it at number 6? Let me clarify something here. This doesn't refer to the whole revelation we learned about Zangetsu. This number 6 spot is just the revelation of his sword. Just Ichigo reaching into the Nemaya's freaking furnace, yanking it out, melting the ocean. Let me repeat that. Melting the ocean. Or evaporating, whatever. Just wanted to be cool. And he pulls out these two awesome swords. One is like a Bowie knife, the other one's like a long sword. Get down, Christmas tree. This is awesome. So, basically, we don't really know what's going to happen with them yet. These swords were revealed like 7-8 months ago, and we still don't have any idea what their potential is, what any new technique Ichigo can do with them, if they're even supposed to be his Shikai or his Bonk Eye. All we know are a couple facts. Fact number 1. Every single Shinigami, except for Ichigo, unlock their power using an Asachi, one of Nemaya's, blank slate Zanpakutos. The reason, and then the fact that Ichigo unlocked a Zanpakuto without using an Asachi, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing, because Nemaya created the Asachi in order for the Shinigami to kind of hone their powers to their maximum, or kind of have like a blank slate to kind of guide the power along. It's a good thing to have an Asachi to guide your power. Ichigo didn't have one, but then he gained one through Nemaya's training. So right off the bat, whatever power Ichigo's previous Zanpakuto had, it's already going to be much more refined and easier to control because of these. Also, Ichigo is now a dual-wield Zanpakuto, something that only the strongest members of the Gotei 13 were able to have before, such as Hyoraku and Ukitake. And I'm not saying having a dual-wield necessarily makes you a supreme badass, or only the really strong people gain them, because look at Shuhei. But when it comes to just dual-wield alone, Ichigo is in a very high-ranking class right there, not only mistaking the fact that the other power-ups he gained through the Soul Palace. So whatever this new Zanpakuto is going to do, I don't know if it's going to have more techniques than Getsuga, what its Bonk Eye is going to look like, but whatever it is, we are going to wet our pants when we find out. Alright, so moving on. Number 5. Dodging Kawamura turning human. This kind of came as a shock to everybody, and it's kind of a running gag on my channel because I called it. But yeah, so in his fight against Bambietta, kind of the same vein as Toshiro and Soifon, we know Kawamura had some type of power-up because he went to go visit kind of his tribe's elder, this giant Falcor thing looking dog. And we all kind of thought, like, okay, so Soifon came up with her Shunko, she refined that, Toshiro kind of perfected his Shikai, Kawamura is probably going to do something very similar, or he's going to gain a power that's not going to be so crazy out there. I came up with the idea, hey, maybe he's going to turn human. I mean, he's wearing a helmet again. Why the hell else would he be wearing it? I said it as kind of a joke. Wasn't really being for realsies. But then, boom, he takes off his helmet, or rather it gets blown off by Bambietta, and boom, Werewolf Kawamura. And I will admit, I was a little bit disappointed because this form doesn't last that long, and when it does fade, he basically turns back into a dog. But it opened the door for a lot of mythology about Kawamura that we haven't really known about before. Kawamura, the fact that he's a dog has never really been mentioned. Ever since we found that out in the Soul Society, it's never been really referenced before, like, oh, hey, yeah, why are you a dog? Never really, like, you're the only one of your kind in the entire Seirei, or so we thought. Where's this all go into? And it was really a good tie back to something in Buddhist religion. I think it's Buddhist, where there's basically like 6 divided afterlives, and each of the afterlives, a lot of people have been actually telling me, what Hueco refers to, what hell refers to, but there's also a beast realm, which would refer to Kawamura's realm. So, I don't know if Kubo's going to exactly tie it into those kind of afterlives. He's going to come up with some new mythology for that, but nonetheless, Kawamura just turning human, Tokojo Tengen Dangai Joe's new appearance, the way he wiped out Bambietta, that is just worthy of the number 5 spot, like, right there. So, yeah, Kawamura, dude. Way to reach back to the high mark, because you were kind of down here for a while. Sorry, bro, the wolf thing was cool, but it kind of wore off on appeal for a while after you kind of got creamed a couple times in the Fake Karakura Town arc. Well, twice. Well, 3 times, kind of, if you sort of count that. But yeah, he was pretty awesome. Number 4. Uryu revealed to be a member of the Vondenreich. This came all the way out of fucking nowhere. Alright? Pretty much this entire arc, we got no Uryu. He showed up, like, at the very beginning in, like, chapter 484, 485, when Ichigo and his group have to go off to Wakamundo, and everybody else is kind of going doing different things, and Uryu's just like, I'm gonna stay in the human world. Ever since then, we did not see him for, like, over a year. Then all of a sudden, at the end of 542, after Ichigo gains his new Zanpakuto, and we're thinking, oh man, this couldn't get any more awesome, Uryu shows up at the end of the chapter wearing Vondenreich, well actually Stern Raider clothing, and apparently Yuha is there and trusting him, and he's just like, guess what? This is my new successor! So, yeah, I mean, just came out of nowhere, and I think I think I might have complained about this a little bit, that we didn't get any setup, but really I think it would have worked that way. I mean, Kubo could have kind of done a setup, like maybe we saw Uryu in the world of the living, like walking around at night, and then all of a sudden we see a shadowy figure behind him, and he turns around, and he's just like, who the hell are you? And then we don't get anything else, and then we get cut to the, you know, the Vondenreich pals, okay? So we don't know even what's up with Uryu yet. He seems to be lucid, he seems to have his own thoughts and opinions on the matter, but we don't know if he's, like, brainwashed, we don't know if he's just going along with this kind of like a double agent, or like a triple or quadruple agent. I don't know how it's going to play out, or even if, you know, he's legitly turned over. I highly doubt that. I don't want to say that, but, you know, considering the fact that Yuha is responsible for his mother's death, but hey, it's a possibility. It exists that he just decided to join the Vondenreich. I mean, there might be a good reason behind it. Maybe Yuha's blackmailing him somehow. We don't know. But all we know is he's there, and he's probably going to have some epic fight with Ichigo at some point. There's probably going to be some, like, Sasuke Naruto shit going on here, but maybe hopefully done right. Thank you, Kubo. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. But yeah, Uryu, Stern Raider A. For awesome, I suppose. Number 3. Unohana and Kenpachi's epic bloody melee. I shouldn't even have to explain this. I shouldn't. The title alone. Unohana, the first Kenpachi, versus Kenpachi, the current Kenpachi. Epic bloody melee. That should say right there. And honestly, there wasn't even a lot of dialogue throughout those chapters. It was mostly just flashback, getting a look at what, you know, how Zaraki came across Unohana, Yachiru's namesake, which is something we've been wanting to know since, like, the beginning of, like, the middle of the Soul Society arc, like, a long fucking time ago. And we finally got to find out, you know, Unohana's backstory, you know, what really got her into, like, how did she become a member of the 4th Division? What was her dark past? Why is everybody afraid of her? And we found out the answer, and it makes so much sense. It really does, if you really think about it. It's kind of like, okay, everybody in the Seirete is aware of her past, they know who she is, but she wants to forget about it. She doesn't want anybody to mention it, but it still happened. So every time, you know, Unohana, like, grabs somebody's shoulder, and it's just like, I think you should go lie down. They look in her, like, nicely smiled face and closed eyes, and they know in the deepest pits of their soul, she could kill you like 15 times over if you disobey her. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go lie down and take my NyQuil. Thanks very much, Unohana. Yeah, so, you know, there's nothing really else to say about the fight. Go read it yourself, again, just for the sake of it. Here's your New Year's present. But also the fact is, we revealed her Bonk Eye, but we didn't really get much of what it was. We just got the appearance of it, so I hope that shows up again in some form. And the revelation of Kenpachi's Shikai name, which we still have no idea of. So those really kind of just setting up stuff for later on. But just for the fight alone, it deserves the number 3 spot. So, yeah, that being the case. Number 2. The true identity of Zangetsu. Okay, there, you happy? Number 2. Bang. Okay, so this one refers to the whole huge major plot twist that's probably the biggest one of the entire year, where Nimaya says that, yeah, guess what? That guy that's been hanging out in your soul for all these years, that guy that's claimed to be your Zanpakuto, yeah, he's Quincy power. He has nothing to do with your Zanpakuto. Huge revelation, shook the fandom, you know, everybody, like, as soon as that chapter got released, like, you could hear the frantic cries of the networkers as the servers are being overloaded from all the freaking traffic. So, basically, here it is in a nutshell. Zangetsu is actually the incarnation of Yuha Bach as he embodies the power of Quincy's in all Quincy's. So I guess in every single Quincy there's like a miniature Yuha Bach just hanging out in your soul. And what really represents Ichigo Zanpakuto, as in Zangetsu, is the Hollow Ichigo that we've known up to this point, because it fused with him when he was born, because Misaki had hollow power in her when she was pregnant with Ichigo. So in all total situations, disregarding Fullbring, disregarding that power, which is also kind of coming across cross with Hollow. Ichigo has 3 main powers: Shinigami, Quincy, Hollow. It's just Hollow and Shinigami mix better than Hollow and Quincy because, as I previously stated, Hollow and Quincy are basically volatile if combined, yet somehow Ichigo manages to maintain the balance. I'm not really sure on that. Hopefully they'll explain that later. But at the end of the day, you know, I was surprised by it. It actually changed my mind on the opinion. I actually had a very adamant position on this, that Kubo did not plan this out ever since the beginning. People were posting like pictures all over the internet like, oh, this is way back in the fake Karakura, I mean, way back in the Soul Society, way back in the Substitute Arc. Kubo had those all planned out. And upon reading some of the information, yeah, he probably did. He probably had some hints back then exactly what Ichigo was. But nonetheless, I hope we get and that also explains why we haven't really seen Zangetsu ever since Ichigo got his powers back in the Fullbring arc. It really, you know, I was always like mad about that. Like, where is Zangetsu? Does Ichigo not even talk to him anymore? Like, did they have a falling out? Like, they broke up for about 17 months. I understand that, but hey, you're moving back in together. You should be on good terms, you know, and like to figure out, you know, when you want friends coming over or whatever. So at least we finally got to figure out what that is. I think it's a very clever way Kubo did it. So yeah. Now, question is, what could top that? Number 1. The entire Misaki backstory, chapters 528 to 538. All the revelations about Ichigo's mother, what she was, about Isshin, who he was, what his relationship was with the rest of the Soul Society, Masaki's boobs, Rangiku's boobs. It's all in this little mini arc, and I love it to death. It was so great that at the moment these series of chapters were being released, the epicness actually made me sick with pneumonia, and I had to cancel a review in the middle of it. We also saw a backstory of Ryukin. Freaking Ryukin of all people. Ryukin has probably been my favorite Quincy, even more so than Uryu, and they always kind of give him the shaft in these arcs. Like in the fake Karakura arc, I kept waiting for him to show up, and you know, like, hey, eyes and suck an arrow, boom, you know, and never showed up. Showed up a little bit in the Fullbring arc, not really much of him, but then finally here we get a flashback involving him, and it was just, whoa, awesome. The only thing that I probably have to nitpick about this is that I really wish they would have included Soken, and they kind of mention him, but they don't really show him. That would have been really cool to see how Ryukin and Soken act like a father and son, because it's been stated, Ryukin said after Soken has died, you know, I didn't agree with my father's choices, I didn't really appreciate the whole Quincy thing like he did, so it'd been kind of cool to see them interact in their younger years, but like I said, that's just really nothing but a nitpick. Urahara shows up at the end and really explains the whole Quincy, Hollow, Human, Shinigami thing, soul suicide, and the whole thing ends finally getting a tie back into the whole Grand Fisher thing. Like, exactly how did Misaki lose against Grand Fisher when she was supposed to be a Quincy? You know, he's like, well, she should have killed him easily. It's just at the exact same moment, it ties back into Uohabak using this selection to choose all these unpure Quincy's to purge, and just it all comes back around again and gives revenge fuel for not only Uryu, exactly why he would want Yuha to be dead because he killed his mom, but Ichigo, same thing. You know, Yuha technically killed his mom too, so it would explain why, yeah, Yuha, like Ichigo, would want a revenge match against Yuha. So, but yeah, just I could keep on going off everything I loved about this little mini arc. So go and read it again if you haven't. This is Tekking101 here. Pretty sure my camera's about to die fairly shortly. So if these are the last words you hear from me in 2013 that are Bleach related, let me just say one thing, and take this to heart because I know I have. Shoulda gone Bonk Eyes. Signing out.